today's Ask a Shrink, let's look at 10 examples of unhealthy boundaries. Hang on. So in my private practice, a lot of clients come in because they struggle with setting healthy boundaries in their life. It's so important to know and be able to enforce whatever healthy boundaries you need to have in your life. Some people aren't clear because their boundaries were stripped away by their own parents as they were growing up. And of course, being a victim of any kind of abuse by a parent is pretty much going to strip away the foundation for being able to set healthy boundaries. Because once again, if those boundaries are being taken away by your own mother and father, you're beginning to think it's normal. Doesn't seem unusual to you. Must be, everybody goes through this. And you learn that just walking on eggshells is kind of normal, and there's always a pit of fear in your stomach, and you haven't been taught or role modeled what healthy boundaries are all about. So you go through life, and it begins to show itself a little bit more when you hit your late teens, 20s, and 30s, and so on. And perhaps you've had many failed relationships, many failed friendships because you are not able to set healthy boundaries for yourself. Let's look at that. So one example is your relationships, your friendships are based on being around somebody who's a bit controlling or a bit coercive with you. So you're not setting a healthy boundary. You're not letting them know that you're not going to be controlled. No way, Jose. You have a mind, you have an opinion, you have behaviors that are going to back you up in advocating for yourself. But you're not able to see that because perhaps you're a victim of some kind of abuse. So if there's somebody in your life that's significant and they're controlling with you, then you're not setting up a healthy boundary for yourself. Number two is you're very codependent. You try to take on others' pain and others' problems and to carry that burden for them and perhaps even try to fix things for them. So codependency means there's no real you there. You're just a people pleaser. You're there to just take care of others. A lot of children of alcoholics have learned that, that's for sure. And so you grow up thinking you're responsible on some level for other people's problems. Maybe just the way you had to listen to your dad after he was hungover the next day, telling you he was so sorry about why he drinks. But he drinks because he got fired at work, and he's telling you all his adult problems, which ties into emotional incest as well. And then combined with the alcoholism, you grow up thinking your role is to take on other people's crap, and that needs to stop. Number three is you notice people tend to take advantage of you. On some level, they know you're going to settle for scraps, so it's really more about you than it is about them. So you have to begin looking inward and realizing don't put all the blame on them, because as you're working on yourself and looking at childhood traumatic feelings perhaps, you can begin realizing that this is a result of being raised by abusive parents. And now as an adult, you have to get out of the mode of being a victim and realizing people can act however they want, but you don't have to take it. So if you're letting people get away with stuff that you know is not good for you, which could be a million things. You're the one left having to pay the bill at the restaurant. You're the one having to organize and plan everything to make something happen. You're the one being told by your older brother or sister when you were younger to do their homework for them. Maybe even now currently. Maybe you're in college doing your roommate's homework. So there's many examples, but if you're being taken advantage of, that's a big red flag. Number four kind of ties into what we just covered, and that's where you're giving a lot more than you're getting in return. So this is really obvious in primary relationships with a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. May not show itself quite so obviously with friends. It may, but it's really probably going to show itself with your significant other. Why are you tolerating that? Why are you doing more for them than they're doing for you? It's unequal. It's probably going to cause resentment and bitterness in the relationship. It's not healthy for you either which way. So pay attention to equality in a relationship. It needs to be in the ballpark, at least 60-40, nothing more than that, hopefully 50-50, where you're both equally caring and contributing and putting the same amount of energy and the same amount of doing into making sure you two have a good relationship. So number five is people in your life don't fight fair and they try to mold you somehow into what they want. So resolving conflict is a huge thing. We need to be able to do it with our good friends, with our significant other. In fact, the best marriages, of course, over 20, 30 years and more are going to involve conflict, absolutely. So it's not so much about having conflict, that's normal to a degree, but how do you resolve it? Are you able to talk it through, process it, come to some sort of resolution, and then move on in a healthy way in the relationship? Well, one good way of experiencing this, that you know this is going on, is if in the not fighting fair, they're trying to manipulate you. That's a good way to know that they're not fighting fair. So they're trying different ways to get in there and either gaslight you, get you to change your mind, prey on what they perceive as your weaknesses, are passive aggressive with you a little bit, flat out lie to you. If that's going on, then they are not fighting fair, and you need to set up a healthy boundary so that that does not continue. Number 6 is you give up your own sense of identity, your own interests, your own things that you want to do in your life for somebody else. That's not having a healthy boundary. If somebody really loves and cares for you, let's say it's a significant other, but it also could be like your best friend, then they're going to want you to succeed. They're going to help you and motivate you and encourage you to do things that benefit you. So let's say you've always dreamt of going to college to major in theater. You want to be on stage. You want to be an actor or actress. You're a little timid about it, but it's in the back of your mind. Someday you're going to go. And then you meet somebody that you care for. And they're telling you, why would you waste your friggin' time on that? And anyhow, I don't want you doing it anyhow, because if we have kids, I need you to be at home. But even if we don't have kids, that's so ridiculous. I mean, you're not going to make much money at that. Do you know how many people are trying to be actors? So we can see a tad bit of negative energy there, right? Well, if you're around somebody like that, number one, I would tell you to run for the hills because they're not respecting you. But for purposes of this video, that is an unhealthy boundary. So you need to be aware of it, not tolerate it. And if you really care for somebody and you can talk it through and maybe even go to couples counseling and they're willing to change because you're putting up a healthy boundary for yourself, then you may stay, but just make sure you do put up that healthy boundary and you go ahead and be an actor for the rest of your life if that's what you want to do. Number 7 is you're enabling them. You enable them on some level. But I did a video, I'll post the link below, called When is Helping Actually Hurting? So we're thinking we're doing something that's going to benefit them. It's actually setting them back because you're catering to their needs. You're not helping them grow up. You're not challenging them to grow. You're just going to take over what needs to be done and you're thinking you're assisting them, but really you're keeping them more as a little boy or a little girl. Growing up requires you have to challenge yourself, risk feeling uncomfortable, allow yourself to fail from time to time. That's how we all grow up. So if you're with somebody and you're trying to do everything for them, a lot of parents do this to their children, then you're not helping them at all. In fact, you're definitely hurting them. And the more you're doing that, these problems that they're so-called having actually can become self-made after a while by that person. So they're going to come up with stuff because why not? You're going to do it for them. So if you're enabling in any way, you need to put up a healthy boundary and not do that. Number 8 is you're always making some kind of excuse for your significant other. Maybe he or she's had too much to drink, they're hung over the next day. You're all geared up to go on the long hike you planned, but he or she doesn't really want to go because they're hungover. Well, now you're around family members or friends and they're all asking how you're doing. And they thought they knew you were supposed to go on a hike today, so they ask you about it and you say, oh no, it's okay. It's really too long for me to walk anyhow. I kind of have a bad knee. Not really telling them the truth that the fact is your husband or your wife is a drunk and they're hungover. So anytime you find yourself covering for somebody, making up excuses for them, then that's an unhealthy boundary. You're agreeable to the point of where you're so focused on pleasing your friends or your significant other that you don't even check in with yourself. So it's about checking in with yourself and even knowing how you feel about something. Sometimes codependent people, kids who are victims of abuse, grow up so focused on having to keep the peace in the family as they're growing up, walking on eggshells, that they don't even know what their own needs and wants are. They don't even know what their feelings are. They can't necessarily even name a feeling. So if you do agree to something you really don't want to necessarily do, or say yes to something that you don't necessarily want to say yes to, at least start getting in touch with your feelings about it, about why you said no, how you really feel about that, identify that feeling, feel how the feeling feels inside of you, sit with the feeling, don't try to make it go away, just tolerate it, let it be, and figuring out how you feel about a certain situation or topic or plan or suggestion or whatever it is. So if you're not quite ready to put up a boundary, not being so codependent, at least take the first step by getting in touch about how you honestly feel about something, name it for yourself, stay with it. That's the first step in changing things around. So these are some quick examples. I hope it helps a little bit. Sometimes people don't know what a healthy or unhealthy boundary is. So I've tried to come up with a few that hopefully may assist you as you go through life, especially if you're a victim of abuse, to know where you should draw the line. How do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line in the sand? These are all things to think about. So please leave me some comments below. Please add an example or two in the comments below if you'd like, maybe something you've really experienced in your life. I'd love for you to share that. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.